we're live. Welcome to yet another coronavirus edition of the PCS Impact Q&A. I'm your host, MJ Boyce, and I am the Director of Community Outreach at PCS Grades. We always, as always, have our PCS Reform Advocate, Megan Harless. She's our resident BA, if you will. Censored just for you. Before we get to our special guest today, I'm just going to go over our regular everyday housekeeping items, and then we'll launch into those DoD updates too. So we're flattening the curve. We're working at it. It's upticking in some areas, which is why, well, Megan will explain during her DoD updates. Some things are changing, some things are staying the same, but we're flattening the curve. And Murphy, I swear, if we flatten nothing else, we're flattening you with it. Okay? It's happening. We're coming for you, Murphy. It's number one. Number two, we bring subject matter experts on. We bring the people to you who are experiencing things during COVID or have guidance to pass, whether that was Transcom, if you caught some of our earlier webinars, education experts, because our kids are impacted too. We love the homeschooling, right? Thank God for summer. I hear you. I'm hearing you now. So we bring them to you to answer your questions. We are here to answer your questions, and those questions will be answered. However, if we don't know the answer to the question, we know who does. And if we don't know either of those things, we're going to take that question for action, and we're going to get you an answer at a later date if we have to research it. We've only been stumped one time, but we're working on that one. Next up is we have lots of resources. There's plenty of places that you can go to and figure out, what's happening. We're going to give you these answers, but the end all be all two resources that you absolutely need to tap into for your specific situation will forever and always be your local chain of command and your local transportation office. Those are the people who know you. Those are the people who know your stuff. Those are the people that can help you with your specific situations. So always remember that if we can't answer that, if it's very specific or service specific or into command specific, you need to take it up the chain. So next up, I'm going to hand it over to Megan for some DoD updates. Go ahead, girl.
Hey, everybody. So we are still under the conditions-based phased opening plan that the DoD has gone to. They announced this a couple of weeks ago. They have released a list of what they are calling the green list. So there's about 39 states on it, and I believe 7 or 8 countries that are on it as well right now. So we have the green list of the states and the countries. There should be another list coming out soon. It's due this week of the installation green list. So just because you're living in a green state does not necessarily mean that you get the PCS without an exception to policy. Your installation has to be on that green list. Both your gaining and your losing installation have to be on that green list, which, like I said, should hopefully be coming out sometime this week. I just checked right before we went live. It was not posted yet, so hopefully within the next couple of days, by the end of the week, we get that. The Navy, about an hour ago on one of their pages, said that currently they have no installations that are green, and that list should be updated weekly. So that's kind of where we're at with that. Each of the services are going through and kind of putting out their own guidance as to how this is going to be handled and exception to policies and people moving. So I have 3 services that have published their guidance. So the Marines, they issued MAR Admin 333-20. The Army has issued ALARACT 54-2020. And then the Navy has issued the NAV Admin 169-20. We'll get the links to those 3 that we have. We'll get them put into the comments below so you guys can be able to go for your specific service and look to see what that guidance is right now.
Good to go. All right. Thank you for those updates, Megan. And okay, let me really quick, before we introduce our special guest, I just wanted to let you know I'm seeing some questions come in. We are absolutely going to get those questions answered. Sometimes we'll answer them as we're speaking and as we're going through our own questions, because some of your questions might be answered by either myself, Megan, or our special guest. Also, we will be taking all of the questions in one big lump at the end, just in case for any saved rounds. Also, if you're watching the replay, go ahead and leave a comment in the box, whether it's, hey, how you doing, whatever. or any questions that you have, we will answer your questions, especially our Oconus crowd. We know you guys are definitely having some questions right about now. All right. Now time to introduce our special guest. We have got Paulette Fryer, and she is awesome. She is also happens to be the Armed Forces Insurance 2020 Military Spouse of the Year, which, by the way, myself and Megan are also installation winners from past years prior. So we're alumni. We're like, tight-knit group, and it's pretty awesome. And thank you so much, Paulette, for being on with us, because we understand that you are in the middle of a PCS yourself. And since this is about PCS-ing during COVID, you're going to give us the down and dirty. So before we launch into those questions, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me today. My name is Paulette Fryer, and I am a Coast Guard spouse. And we're empty nesters. So we moved just my husband and myself this time. So that was really different for us. Our kiddos are in college now, so a little bit of a transition there. But we just recently PCS'd. We're in the middle of it. From the Washington, D.C. area to Scott Air Force Base at Transcom. So that's where my husband is going to be assigned. He's just getting ready to check in here now. So we are mid-transfer. We've had our pack out and load up. We are in our 1940s era small little Airbnb for another 6 weeks before we get into our home. So just having all kinds of fun, being flexible right now.
Awesome. Wow. Yes. Okay. So I just want you to know that I feel your stress, and we got to roll with it. It is what it is. But I kind of just love that you have like such a smiley face still, because my face is like a mass case of RBF after a PCS. I'm just saying, I know I'm not alone on this, but, speaking of which, so I've kind of gotten some backstory for you, but I'd like you to tell our audience, how is the Stop Move and the COVID pandemic impacted your original PCS plans?
Okay. It has impacted it in probably every way. It has changed many times. We just have to be flexible right now, because I think every service has probably told their people, we're going to get moved. This is going to happen, but it's not going to be a PCS like you've ever experienced before. So just bear with us. And, I feel like as military families, we're kind of used to being flexible. And so a lot of it is going to be just things you've already done anyway, just maybe not all of them at the same time. So I lost my train of thought there for a second, but hopefully that answers what you were just asking me.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, you had plans to go visit family and stuff like that. Yeah.
Life is really upside down for me right now. So thank you for bearing with me on that. We changed our plans. We have a son graduating. He actually graduated from college last weekend in Seattle. Our leave was canceled. We couldn't go out there. As you know, none of these ceremonies are happening anyway, but we couldn't be there. So we had to change our plans a few times, because we kept trying to modify and see if we could still somehow get out there. Did not work. Most of our kids are on the West Coast. We were stationed on the East Coast, moving to the Midwest. So we had to change plans. We had our leave canceled, which was almost a month long. So we ended up with about a month of nowhere to be. We were coming out here to Scott Air Force Base. We're going to be renting a home. Well, you guys all know how the domino effect works with renting from military families and just the things we go through. So the family that we're renting a home from, they're going overseas, and they got pushed back almost a month. So we ended up with 2 months without somewhere to be, basically. We were able to secure an Airbnb. We did go ahead with our pack out because it was planned and scheduled, and we felt like that was the best thing to do, to go with that, because it was already scheduled and was a go. So we did. We had all our things packed mid-May. So then we ended up needing to find temporary lodging in DC for a couple weeks. We stayed on Quantico for a couple weeks. We made our travel over, which was wonderful, by the way. Shout out to all of the Marines at Marine Corps Base Quantico. I think the people at the gate, the people on base, they were so awesome and treated us so well. Like, I just loved staying on that base. So just a little shout out for that. But we stayed there. We traveled. It only took us 2 days, but we did have to make arrangements for travel and hotel And then when we got out here, we were able to secure an Airbnb. It's definitely kind of like camping out. There were not a lot of options available, but there are options out there. You may not get to see it first or kind of know, but it'll work. I mean, it's working for us. It's a little primitive, but we're fine. So
primitive. I like that. I like that. Primitive.
It's very small.
Old school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, you've told us a lot about what your experience is like with your unique PCS during this time, that a lot of families are gearing up and about to be starting their very own unique PCS during this time as well. So when you were having your home packed in DC, having your household goods loaded, like what was that experience like during this time? Like, were the crews following the safety and health protection guidelines that the DoD put out? Like, did you take any other safety precautions or feel that you needed to?
Okay, so that's a great one, because I learned a lot through that, and I'd love to be able to share with other people, because I don't think I really realized exactly what our rights were or what was expected, because I feel like we were kind of a first wave of moving after things started to open up. So the crew that came to pack us up did not come with masks on and did not come with any health verified information from the crew at all. I will say I just stayed out of the house as much as I could, and my husband stayed 6 feet away from them, but it caught us off guard because they just didn't say anything. And we didn't really realize what we kind of know now after learning a little bit more about it, that we should have required them to do that, or at least asked about it and asked them to provide that paperwork. It was not provided at all. That being said, it was a very experienced group, and they did a great job of packing us out. That was a good experience. They were very efficient and did a good job, but it felt very awkward for us because we were like, wait, aren't they supposed to? Or wait, wasn't it supposed to? That kind of thing. But it was so new. We didn't really know of anyone that had moved yet this season, or I don't know. I guess that's partly on us, maybe, for not educating ourselves as well. But I guess I'm just here to say that, you can require that. You can ask them. It's your right to do that. And I wish I would have done that. But, you're also, it's an awkward position. You want to be polite. You're trying to be nice, but you're feeling awkward. So that was really kind of strange. But I will say, the group that came to load us up to pack out, they came in with masks. We still never saw any type of paperwork that showed that people had been temperatures taken or anything like that. That never happened. But they did have masks on, gloves and all that. The first group did have gloves, just no masks. But they were respectful and asked us what our comfort level was with that. So that was good. But I still have yet to have ever seen any paperwork or anything like that. That being said, when our stuff gets delivered, it's going to be a different story. I feel a little more prepared now of what I can ask for what to be comfortable with that, because it was awkward, it is awkward, but it worked. We're okay. You
better knock on some wood, woman.
Yeah.
It's been a month.
Okay.
So,
okay. Okay. Well,
we're a month out.
So let me jump in.
We just don't have our stuff yet.
I was going to say, Megan, for those other people who might be in Paulette's position, what if somebody were to walk up in there, what would you say to do?
So the DoD is trying to be really great at empowering families to have more control over those people that are in their homes. And I'll drop all this information into the comments below so everybody has it for reference and can look at it. So the first thing is that they should be providing you some sort of paperwork. And I'll drop the form in the link in the comments that says, who your crew members are and that they have been health screened for the virus, and are good to be in your home. So the first thing should be that you get that certificate paperwork that verifies they've been health screened. The second thing is that the DoD, with their force protection guidelines, have put out that the movers and the folks in your home should have gloves on and should be following the CDC guidelines. They've put that very clearly out multiple times. We'll drop that information in the comments below for you as well. But if somebody shows up in your home and they don't have the masks you're not comfortable, it's summer. We understand allergies are happening everywhere, but if somebody shows up at your home, they don't have a mask and they're coughing and hacking and you're just not comfortable with them being in your home, you have every right to tell them, like, I'm sorry, I'm not comfortable with you in my home. I need you to step outside, please. You can call your move coordinator. You can call their local transportation office, let them know what is going on, so that way they can either adjust your crew as needed or come and pick up somebody if they need to as well. But they should definitely be following the protection guidelines that Transcom and the DoD have put out for the crews to follow.
Okay, so since it's relevant, we have a question here from Michelle. Hey, Michelle, thanks for the question. If they don't provide a health certificate or documentation, can we refuse them?
You can, yeah, you definitely can. I would ask them when they show up, if they don't have it, I would just ask them, like, hey, we're being told by Transcom and the DoD, you're supposed to be providing this form. And like I said, I'll drop it in the comments so you'll have it, Michelle. You can pull it up, show them what it looks like. If they don't have it, maybe they forgot it at the office and somebody can bring it out, to verify for you. Or whatever the issue may be. But you absolutely have every right to say, if you haven't been health screened yet, and if you don't have the proper protective equipment, I don't want you to be in my home around my things.
Good call.
Yeah.
And it's a crappy situation to be in, but this is so new and it's so different. And of course, everybody's geographically dispersed. So one person might not be told the correct information, which is why we got Megan here for that. Okay. So Paulette, you're moving across the country. What was that like? First of all, I know that, not only, we've got the COVID aspect, but there are, protests and stuff going on in different cities and stuff like that. So were places open? Like, what was that experience like?
Okay. So, we just made sure, and I'm sure a lot of people do this already, that's not totally different. We made sure that we knew where we were going to stop and that we were going on a route that had, truck stops that had the big gas stations. Of course, we reserved our hotel ahead of time. I don't know how all branches are, but with the Coast Guard, we had to supply, basically, this is where we're going to be staying on our way, and this is what our plan is, and this is our route, because they wanted to make sure that no families were left stranded just looking for a hotel that night, type of thing. So we had that, we planned ahead with that. We found rest areas open. We found the gas station, the big truck stop gas stations were open. We just wore masks, and a lot of places, some people were wearing them, some places they weren't. I mean, you can just look at the signage depending on what state you're going through. If you look ahead on the states you're driving through, what their guidelines are. But I think as long as you're packing like gloves, masks, that sort of thing with you, we have, of course, had extra antibacterial stuff, wipes, things like that, and just made sure to use that at each stop. What
about restaurants and stuff, like food?
Okay, so different states. One of this, we drove through Kentucky. We got to sit inside a restaurant and eat. We hadn't done that in a couple months, but they just kept the tables far apart and you could eat. The other states we went through, they had like patio seating for outside. You could sit outside and eat or get takeout, but you couldn't eat in the restaurant. So we had no problem finding food at all. I will say the one thing that we were surprised by that I will tell people is the hotel. Most of us, when we're PCSing, we make sure we stay at a hotel that has kind of the continental breakfast or some type of breakfast in the morning, so you can just grab quick and get on the road.
Oh yeah.
The hotels are not doing breakfast right now because of COVID. It's just one extra thing to have to deal with. They're just not doing it. So we did get caught a little surprised by that and not able to get breakfast at our hotel, which, we tried to book for a hotel that had breakfast, so we wouldn't have to worry about that. So that's just a little thing to let people know. A lot of hotels are just not going to want to deal with that. That being said, if you're staying on a military installation, the ones that we stayed in, as like at Quantico, they still had that. They just had some of their staff handing it out so that people weren't all like touching a buffet or anything like that. So we were able to get it on the military installations, but not regular hotels. So that's just one little heads up. And I will say we packed more for the road than we normally probably would, just to be prepared. Think of it when you're moving Oconus or something, you just have more stuff with you because it's going to be longer before you get all of your things. And we just packed a little heavier that way with little supplies and, not really clothing, but just things you maybe wouldn't normally, just being more aware of that. But It was great. It was actually, we were nervous. I'll be honest. We were nervous about it because the weekend we were driving was the weekend that everything amped up with all the riots everywhere.
Yeah.
And we were nervous about it, but we had it was fine. We avoided, driving through any big cities, and it was, we were fine. We were very, very pleasantly surprised at what a great smooth drive it actually was.
Word.
So you've now, your stuff is packed up. It's been loaded. You've driven across country. You're at your new location, but you're not in your home. So you are extended in an Airbnb right now. So what is that experience like? I know you mentioned before the domino effect of not being able to get into your home. So
Right.
What is that like? What kind
Really
of
cool. She actually said something earlier that about ripping the Band-Aid. So like this,
Yes.
like her PCS is being extended, and
Yes,
it's ripped a hair at a time.
I feel like it's just the slowest ripping Band-Aid ever, and so be prepared for that, because all of the things are going to happen. It just doesn't really happen like clockwork, like usually a little bit more it does. So yeah, I was saying it does. It feels like a really slow ripping Band-Aid because it's just taking a lot of time, but it's still, everything's working. We're just having to be flexible. It's not ideal. It's kind of hard. I do run a business out of my home. And so, or an online business type of thing, this little Airbnb, my Wi-Fi is not great. I don't have a computer set up. Like, there's obstacles, but that's not, it's working. We have a roof over our heads. We have food, I don't maybe have everything I want, but it's working. It's just, I think I said this before, but as military families, we're kind of prepared with having to be flexible with things. We have to do that all the time. We just have to do it a little bit more right now. And I feel like everyone around us is really working hard to try to make it the best experience it can be, because they know it's challenging right now. And so if we have some grace, you got to have some grace with that too, because, everyone in the world is dealing with this situation right now. Now, everyone in the world may not be dealing with having to move to a place they've never even seen before, which we had to do. That's another thing that had to be canceled. We were supposed to come out here ahead of time to pick out a house and different things like that. That was all canceled. So we had to do it all online. But we probably all had to do that at some point or other in our military lives also. So I just think you just got to take a deep breath. Like MJ was kind of joking around about my smile, but I'm like, you know what? We don't have a choice about this. We got to do this. It's gonna work. We have great resources. We got people that want to help us. Megan, you're doing amazing work with getting this information out to people that I never knew about this before, a different PCS. I don't know if it was around before now, but I'm super thankful it is. Everyone's they really are trying to make it the best it can be under these circumstances. And we're all in the same boat that way. So I just feel like you just gotta, take a deep breath, and it's gonna work. It's just gonna be a little clunky.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I've always relied on, we have to, it's like exhaling, right? And so it's really hard to do that when you're in the middle of a cluster, like a PCS, especially if everything's going wrong and Murphy inserts himself. I want to smack him sometimes, but I'm not going to lie. Sometimes going into the bathroom, putting a pillow over my face and yelling the F-bomb about 52 times over helps. And then I come back out with my smile, whether it's fake or not. It's better than the RBF that I'm used to dealing with.
Well, and that being said, I'm not just saying Pollyanna, ignore the problems. I'm saying, for me, putting a smile on my face is my way of going, I got this. We got this. We're going to do it. There's going to be moments that are hard. There always is. And you may need to scream into a pillow, but you're not going to let it get the best of you. That's all I mean by that.
So let me ask you this. What are you most looking forward to when all of this is done and over with? Besides copious amounts of wine.
Yeah. Oh, I can have copious amounts of wine now if I want to. No, just kidding. I am looking forward to getting out to the West Coast and seeing our kids because, like I said, we've got college kids out there we have not been able to see since Christmas. So, of course, that is a big priority for us, is to get out there when the travel bans, lifted and things are better that way. I'm also, like you mentioned before, being chosen as the Military Spouse of the Year through AFI this year. I want to get to see the other, I want to get to experience that. I'm very excited to meet more people and experience that whole program. And that's really been on hold a lot too. I've been doing that all virtually and have not met almost anyone in person. So I'm just excited for those in-person experiences that we've been missing out on the past few months.
Awesome. Let's really quick why don't we get your tips first? What kind of tips? What kind of tips would you give to our audience if they're planning their PCS during this time? What would you say?
I mean, I hope this is some good information, but a lot of them I've already said. Obviously, be prepared. Pack your masks, gloves, antibacterial. I know a lot of us are doing that everywhere, anything we do right now anyway, but just being prepared. You have to be just a little extra prepared this time, and just really all the things that for a PCS on how you organize your move, how you do it, just be extra prepared with it this time. Maybe just packing, being prepared for not having food at some of the places. Like we packed more food along our drive this time because of COVID. And I think that was one thing that was different than a normal PCS, is you couldn't just stop as easily and get food everywhere. So definitely packing more food. Let me think where I had a little list. I feel like it was just making it like an OCONUS transfer this time rather than domestic, because we just needed a little extra stuff and a little extra, whether it was some little kitchen tools you might want, or just things to make a long transition a little easier than a normal just driving a couple days and being in a new home, in your new place. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Hopefully that's kind of what you're looking for.
Well, it's interesting
for you, Paulette, really quick. So you packed more for your trip going from DC out to the Midwest. Is there an item that you did not pack in your car with you that you wish now that you would have thought, let me take that with me instead?
Honestly, I don't have anything like that. So I will say also, because of COVID and because of being stuck at home for a few months before we moved, it allowed us to be more organized during this move than we've ever been. So that is a plus for a lot of people, I think, because if you've been more at home, you've had a lot more time to go through your things and downsides. You've had more time to make sure you don't pack stuff you don't really want to take. You've had more time to organize. A lot of people have. So in that sense, that made it more of a smooth move than our last few, because my husband was actually home more. He could actually help me with things.
Oh, yeah. So, honey-do list.
Awesome. Having your spouse home to help with anything PCS related.
So
I never usually have that. Like the last move I did entirely by myself. So this time that was, so that's kind of a looking at the bright side thing for a lot of people. Not everyone's going to be in that situation, but for a lot of people, if their spouse has been having to telecommute more and things like that, you've had more time to just be more organized and prepare. And we didn't really have anything that we missed or didn't have, other than just my own fault. I packed the dog's flea and tick and heartworm stuff, thought the bag was in the stuff to come with us, and it got packed with the other stuff. So that was our one little hitch, but that's just, there's always going to be that one little thing.
Yeah.
Word. Okay, well, since you're on the tip train, we've got Lizanne here. Hey, Lizanne. So she said, hey, Paulette, you said you were able to travel without kids, but are there things and plans that you would have done differently if you did have kids with you? Like, especially for those doing like road trip PCS moves and hotel stays with young kids?
Probably not, because we traveled with our dog. We did have an animal we were traveling with. Sometimes I feel like that's kind of like traveling with a kid and having more stuff to pack and prepare for. But I feel like with our kids, anymore, if they have electronic devices and things like that they're on and using it, it kind of keeps them more occupied now than it ever used to be when my kids were young, when there was nothing like that. I don't really know that I have an answer for that. I don't think there's anything about that would have changed the experience at all. We rest areas were open, truck stops, bathrooms were available. We didn't have there was nothing that wasn't available to us that should have been and wasn't. I mean, it really was, it honestly went way better, the actual drive part, way better than I thought it was going to during this time. It was fine.
Word. And actually, Michelle here, she wanted to know what hotels that you stayed in and if they were dog friendly, because they too have a
Yeah. So we stayed at I think it was a Comfort Inn and Suites. We also, Hampton Inns a lot of times take dogs. And those two happen to be ones in our experience, take animals with a small fee and usually always have breakfast available. So that's why we usually look for those when we're moving. Of course, now I will tell you, they're not going to have the breakfast. They're just one thing during COVID they're not dealing with, but they took small animals and made it very easy for us to have our animal with us.
I'll add on to that because we also have a couple fur babies when we travel. La Quinta is another hotel chain that allows pets, and then Red Roof Inns also allow pets as well.
Word. Gotta love that. I mean, our fur babies are babies too.
Yes.
Mine's a toddler. I mean, like literally, it brought me back days, which I thought were over, by the way. Not. So, okay. So got a lot of questions here. Go ahead.
Well, this really doesn't have so much to do with moving, but just as an encouragement for people. The strangest thing about this move, honestly, was that we didn't get to say goodbye to people. It was, nothing had opened up by the time we were moving, nothing. And so we didn't really get to say goodbye to people and really do the normal routine that we would do that way. And so just an encouragement to people that, we're all experiencing the same thing. And so just don't feel alone and isolated and you're the only one that is going through that, because we all did.
You know what? It's interesting you say that, because we talked about this a little bit when we had our education experts on. And one of the things that really just hit me right in the feels was our military kids, their school closed down. And for a lot of them, they had no idea that their last day was their last day, like forever. And they didn't get to say goodbye to their friends. And for kids, it's totally, you know what I mean? So I've always encouraged, I've had so many friends who've ran into that issue, and I've encouraged them to pull up the old Zoom and get them familiar with it now, and maybe let them play with the video games online a little later than they usually do, because they don't get to see these guys again. You know what I mean? And that just kind of blows. Okay. Another question: how can she be of better assistance to buyers and sellers with this type of situation, which I'm sure is not uncommon?
Yeah. So becoming a very common situation right now with a lot of people that have bought a home, in the process of buying a home, looking at buying a home. So as we said, right now we're under a conditions-based phase opening. So with that, currently there are no green listed installations. So everybody kind of still needs that exception to policy in order to PCS. So before anybody buys a home or thinks of buying a home, I would always suggest getting that exception to policy first, knowing that you can PCS and that you're going to be able to PCS when you want to. If you don't have that exception to policy, and you still want to go ahead and buy a home, just be aware and prepared that you may not be moving when you expect to move, that you may be delayed. A lot of places, a lot of services are going back and they're reissuing orders, they're reissuing new guidance, they're extending report dates just because of this unprecedented time that we're living in right now. So buying a home, selling a home, it's definitely a big stress level right now for a lot of families. But if you're a realtor and you're helping families, I would just, let them know, advise them, hey, if you don't have your exception to policy in hand, you're probably not going to be moving in when you think you're going to be moving in. Just be aware of that. Be prepared for that delay. That would really be the biggest thing, is just know without the exception to policy, you're probably not moving.
And from a realtor's perspective, is this a way to, you know what I mean? Like when they have clients that are stuck in this position, I've always felt, because not a lot of, not every realtor in every region or, knows the ins and outs of military life.
Mhm.
them in the direction of their training. For you to say to your client, I really suggest you contact your chain of command and see what they can do, or get this letter or that letter, or just make sure they're aware. You knowing that that is part of a process it just provides a little level of trust to them, and that really helps as well. So kudos to you for asking on behalf of your military clients.
Mhm.
Michelle also had another question. Michelle, you are on fire today. We always got one who's on fire. You're on fire today, Michelle. Michelle said, you mentioned gloves. Are the packers required to wear gloves when packing us up, or is this referring to the movers, or for both?
So with the health protection guidelines, I just went and looked at it. It actually does not mention gloves in it at all. It mentions having face masks, and it mentions them being health screened, and it mentions them cleaning frequently touched areas that they frequently touch. So whatever that may be in your home, for them to be able to clean that. So it doesn't necessarily mention gloves at all. So that sounds like it was just something that Paulette's crew just happened to have themselves and used.
They wore gloves, but they didn't clean anything.
Yeah.
Oh. No, I mean, like, right?
I've got all the graphics and pictures that as soon as this webinar ends, I'm going to drop them into the comments. I tried doing it while we were live streaming so you could get them, and then my internet was freezing up some. So when we get done, I'm going to drop it all into the comments, so you'll have all of that right after this, Michelle, so you can go and look and see exactly what it says.
Word. Okay. So, and Murphy, you need to back off the internet. Okay. Just saying, we're about to go toe to toe, brother. All right. So we do have a question that came in before the webinar even started, and it's going to cover all of our faces, but I feel like this is a really, really important question because they're probably not the only one to face it. We're supposed to be PCS-ing overseas. However, we, spouse and kids, don't have passports. And they said expect 3 to 4 months for government no-fee passports, up to a year for tourist passports. The military will only pay overseas housing allowance to the military member because technically we're on his orders to be moving with them, but we can't without passports. So we're homeless until we can leave the States to be with our military member. Is there any kind of financial assistance help we can get so we can find a place to live stateside? What's the guidance on passports? I know there's something new.
Yeah, so this is another one of those common situations that is happening right now. It's a really sucky situation for a lot of families to be in. They did put out some guidance, and again, we'll drop it into the comments right after this about the no-fee passports and how you can, if you have an exception to policy, to submit that with your no-fee passport paperwork so that way it can get processed faster. I have seen people that have done that, and within 2 to 3 weeks have had their no-fee passports back. So we'll drop that guidance below so you can at least look at that to try to get your passports, your no-fee passports quicker. In regards to everything else, it's a sucky situation. I've seen a lot of families that have been planning for their service member to go ahead and for them to follow on later. And they've been making plans to either stay with friends or family for that extended period of time until they are able to get their passports to go. So it's a sucky situation. It might be something that you may have to consider planning, having that contingency plan in hand. There's also the military relief societies and organizations that we talked to a couple of them a couple weeks ago, that if for some reason family and friends staying with them is not an option, I know it's not an option for everybody. If you have to stay in a hotel, an Airbnb, do a monthly rental apartment for some reason, you can look at those relief organizations. So if you're Army, it's AER, Army Emergency Relief. There's the, the Air Force Relief Society, and then I forget the Navy one.
We have the Air Force Aid Society, and then we have the Navy Marine Corps Relief Society, and then the Coast Guard also has a relief society as well. And what we'll do is, so April is the one that asked the question. Thank you, April. April, we're gonna, I'm gonna drop the link to the webinar that we had with the relief societies. Was it last week before last? Week before last.
Yeah.
Drop that link in there so that you can hear about some of the COVID related relief, grants or loans that they have that might be able to help. And again, it's depending on the service specific, but also they all have like a reciprocal agreement. So like if you have to go talk to Navy Marine Corps Relief Society because there's no Air Force Aid Society by you, they can funnel that through. They can, it's not a one stop. They will help find that resource. And of course, again, always with the chain of command, make sure that chain of command is always abreast about what's happening, because they may know of any new or up and coming policies that you can take advantage of as well in situations like this.
Yeah.
Let me see if we have any more. We did have actually a really great comment or suggestion from Angela. Hi, Angela. So one of them was, one thing the military friends that I know who are moving right now reached out and tried to make sure that there was friends or friends of friends along the way that could help, if they needed to, especially with COVID closures and restrictions in place.
Yeah.
We did do that.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I forgot to,
see, you have PCS brain. We get you.
I
You have
do.
PCS brain.
I'm sorry. But we did reach out and we pulled a small trailer with us because we needed a little bit extra stuff for 2 months. And we reached out to people along our route and found friends that we could park our trailer at their house so we didn't have to park it at the hotel.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I'm sorry, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
PCS brain.
It's something that we know that our military community is small, but sometimes we forget how small it is. And so I think especially in these instances, if we have somebody PCSing, reaching out, hey, who do I know that's at Tampa, or who do I know that's in Quantico, to kind of link them up before they get there with a good friend that can help them. So if you guys arrive somewhere, they have a place to park their trailer. They have somebody, if they need some kind of emergency, something, they have somebody there they can reach out to. And as you said, along the way, this is my route. Who do I know that lives along this blue line across the map that you guys are seeing? Can we, drop a trailer with you for a night? Can we, whatever. So yeah, definitely using your network and your friends is definitely an amazing thing right now.
No, for sure. And I mean, at the very least, just to break it up, I would be one of those, hey, I'm in front of your house. Come out and elbow bump me so I can finish on my way, because I need some human contact.
Yeah.
Oh
That's good.
Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So that is all the questions that we have. I want to let our audience know, go ahead and leave any other saved rounds in the bottom of the in the comments section, and we'll get to you as you ask them. Also, Megan's going to be dropping a bunch of links from everything that we've talked about. Paulette, you are the bomb diggity for coming on and helping us out today and telling us about your experience and bringing that positive attitude, which, it's really good. You can be mad. We all have a right to be mad. Be mad, have a glass of wine, remove the art. It's harder for me. But
my husband and I call that our Chardonnay moment. You get the Chardonnay moment. You can whine for a minute and then get over it and keep going.
There you go. There you go. I love that. I'm stealing that. I'm going to make it into a hashtag. It's happening.
Do it. Thank you so much for having me. It was
absolutely.
Great
and until next week, this too shall PCS. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.